Welcome back, everybody, to the Oz Bodybuilding Podcast. Today I'm joined by Candice Ingram, aka the Ice Queen.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
That's all right. So Candice just competed at the Queensland State Show in the bikini division. And I must say, I was there and you looked amazing. First time, she did first timers, and was it novice or,
Yeah,
and did you
yes,
do it
and
open? Open,
I did do opens.
was
Yes,
it open C?
I was in A, class
A?
A,
Yeah.
a short girls.
Yeah. Oh, so that's what the ABC is. I didn't realize it was so tall, medium, small.
Yes,
Oh, that makes more sense.
yes,
Okay.
it's in height classes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So yeah, no, that was really exciting to watch. We'll get back into a bit of that later on. I just want to kind of start off with kind of asking you, what got you into bodybuilding to kind of, start off.
yeah, sure. So I've been training for since I was 17,
Yeah.
and I just had my 21st fourth birthday. So I've been training for a few years, and I've just always kind of been around people who did bodybuilding
Yeah.
and always had an interest in it. And eventually I just have an obsession with the body itself, and I wanted to see what I could do myself with my body and how I could grow and develop. And that just started my journey, I guess, into training and bodybuilding and just growing and developing. And I feel like everyone can relate to this. I've had multiple or at least one COVID prep attempt.
Yeah.
So I was supposed to do one 2 years ago, but obviously the good old vid came along and
Ruin that.
ruined that. So that's cool. And then eventually we got to where we are now, which is I've been on stage once and I'm prepping to go again in another 9 days. Yeah.
That's good. Sometimes you can kind of look at it that, I guess, maybe it just wasn't meant to be during COVID time. And, your time, you maybe just didn't have that size or, didn't have the flow or shape that you kind of have now. So, it was more of a benefit, even though you would have got the experience from that first show, but, just being able to kind of, a blessing in disguise to bring that, better package, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually so grateful that it got cancelled because I learned so much about myself in that time. And when I look back on it, it really wasn't the best time for me to be doing a show because I was in my final year of uni.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to juggle full-time work, uni, plus prepping at the same time, which was hectic.
A lot on your hands.
So it honestly worked out so well. And my body, I think having that, it was almost like a trial run, really. So it gave me a bit of insight into what to expect into a prep and, what happens and what is required and the amount of time that you do spend on yourself for a prep and what is required to follow through with one. So it just gave me that bit of insight and was like a cut. It helped me then rebuild my body and build more muscle so then I could come in with a lot more muscle density for this show and putting on.
And I agree with that. I think like I said, I've been following you for quite some time and I can definitely see that, that maturity in your muscle and the density is there. And, I can agree that, back then 2 years ago, you definitely may not have had as much as now. So it's, like you said, kind of that blessing in disguise.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I look at my shots from the weekend and, whilst I might not have gotten the results that I was hoping for, I still look at my physique and I'm so proud of the package that I presented and can see the muscle maturity and the muscle density that I may have over other athletes as well. So I think it was absolutely a blessing in disguise. In the moment, it was not the greatest, but hindsight's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, definitely. So something that I just want to touch on, because I may not know, but when you said you were doing a prep, was this for the sort of pre-COVID prep? Was that for IFBB? Because I think I remember a while back, you're originally going to be doing WBFF. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So originally that prep was for WBFF.
Oh, it was? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're still with Logan during that. And then, so what was the switch to IFBB?
Yeah, I was prepping under Team Sacrifice, but I was with Jane
Yeah.
specifically for that show, and then obviously she had baby, so
Yeah.
I moved over to Logs. And it's funny because during that prep, I was like, no, I'm definitely a WBFF girl. I'm a dancer, and I've danced all my life, so I've got that like pizzazz to me. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I love the
That
glam.
presentation. Yeah.
Yeah, and I never thought I would do IFBB. And then over, I guess, like the time period, and as I grew and developed and had more of a development in my appreciation of bodybuilding in general, I shifted my focus more towards IFBB, and I just found myself paying more attention
Yeah.
to the IFBB Federation and the athletes, and I was becoming, I guess, more appreciative of the physique that is presented in IFBB as opposed to WFF.
Yeah.
And that's what made my decision to switch, was just the physique and what I guess IFBB
It kind of stands for.
promotes, and stands
Yeah.
for, and the actual physique as opposed to the look that WBFF goes for.
Yeah, because I've always considered like WBFF, like, don't get me wrong, there's a couple of people, like women and boys, like that could go over to IFBB and have great physiques like that, but it is more of like, a beauty pageant type presentation style in comparison to like what you're saying, that more physique centered that the IFBB kind of does focus on.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree. So that's what made me change, and I love IFBB.
You love it now. You kind of found like the niche. It is kind of like a niche. Like I remember when I first got into kind of bodybuilding and that, I didn't even know there was like 3 different federations, let alone 4. Like, there's the ICN, then WWF. I'd always just known about like, all the pro athletes in the IFBB. So then when people are like, oh, there's WBFF, there's this, I'm like, wait, what? This is so confusing.
Yeah.
What do you choose?
I know. Yeah, and you've always got that one friend be like, oh, like who isn't in like bodybuilding industry, and it's like, oh, I know someone who competed and like looks like this, and it's just, if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah,
like,
literally.
Everyone's just like, oh, bodybuilding, you go on stage and you're super tanned and you don't eat, and it's just like, or you spend like 5 hours at the gym, and it's just like,
so much more to it.
So much more to it, but that's what you get if you don't know, you don't know.
Definitely. It's one of those things. It's just that type of sport. So another question is, I know that you so you're studying at uni, and so you're actually like a nurse, and I'm just interested to like kind of, because for me, I've never done night shift type things, and sleep's really important to me, and like it is in bodybuilding in general, but I'm just trying to think, like, I couldn't even imagine, working night shifts and trying to juggle all that, and then, having days off. And then, like, do you constantly like stay on the night shift routine, or, how do you balance out? So I just kind of want to hear about your experience with that and what that's been like juggling in this prep.
Yeah. I get so many questions about that. It's crazy because, I'm work in the emergency department. I'm a nurse. And so I do lots of shift work, and that can be morning shift, like afternoon shift, overnight shift. Like I was doing double shifts up until I think like 6 weeks out, which can be up to 18-hour shifts at a time. And I think the biggest blessing that I have is just, well, one, it's kind of normal to me. Like obviously with nursing prior to prepping, and my lifestyle very much was similar to prep. So I was used to it, but I'm a very good sleeper. Like if you know me, like that's probably one of my greatest qualities, is I can sleep anywhere, anytime. So I was very blessed to not have that issue. During prep, I think I had one night where I actually didn't sleep.
Oh, that's so good. You always hear about like people how like, oh, it's like 4 weeks out, I can barely sleep, I'm waking up every 2 hours.
Yeah, so I was very lucky about that. But with the whole shift work thing, like I would do runs of nights. So usually I would do 4 nights in a row, and I would just treat it like it was a normal day for me. It was just flipped, I guess. So I would still eat during the night. To be honest, it was kind of easier, especially towards the end of prep, when food is low, that during the night your hunger is quite settled. Like normally you're not usually eating at 3 o'clock in the morning, so your body kind of doesn't have that appetite as much, which I found was a lot more manageable than sometimes during a morning shift. But yeah, so I would usually obviously sleep during the day, and then I would go to work at night, and then I would train when I finished work in the morning, and then would go to sleep during the day, and then same thing, just repeat. And then once I got off my night shifts, I would just pretend like it didn't happen almost.
Okay.
And then go back into a day shift. And it is from I guess an outsider's perspective, I did live quite a yo-yo life because I had no routine, but I had like different routines for different shifts. So if I was working a morning shift, I know I would like eat in the morning and then train that afternoon, or if I did a afternoon shift, I would fast and do my training in the morning and then work in that afternoon. So I did always kind of have a similar routine that I would follow. It would just depend on what shift I was working that day.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense, I guess. Like that's the biggest factor, being an outside kind of can't relate, but because that's your normal, it kind of, you just you learn to manage around, what you're used to kind of work out what best for you to kind of achieve the goals you need to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just always like, I'm very prepared. Like I always would have things like all my meals sorted, like my clothes would be sorted. I would walk out the door with 3 bags every day, because I would have my gym bag, my work bag. Like if I was going somewhere else that day, usually like my lunch bag. So that's the biggest thing too, is just being prepared and just eliminating that stress that can come from the lack of preparation, and knowing that if I put in the work, even like some nights I'd be like, if I sort my stuff out tonight, I know that tomorrow morning I just need to get up and do that and go. So it's just like
controlling all those variables and like, aiming for success.
Pretty much, absolutely.
If you don't plan, you plan to fail. If you plan to succeed.
Exactly right. Exactly. So and that's just like creating habits as well. So it's just, taking those little actions, and that then becomes a habit. So then I'm not even like thinking about doing it like, I've got to do this tonight. It's just, I do it naturally. And then that just eliminates that stress that can come from the lack of preparation. And usually if I did do a double, I would preamp that I would do a double. So I would pack all my meals that day. So then
you were ready.
So I was ready if I needed to do one. So it was just preparation, honestly.
Do you think, how do I word this? Like, so I'm intrigued. Do you think if you were to approach the prep not doing that, like going outside of your normal to what, like someone like myself would consider normal, you work, where like a morning shift, or you work a full day, and then, you're not really doing night shifts. Do you think that doing that would be harder to get used to because it's outside of your normal, because you're only used to doing all the yo-yoing type shifts and, double days and stuff like that? Do you think it would be, you think it would be easier to kind of go to like what you consider like a normal, without the yo-yoing?
Oh, it would definitely be easier if I worked a 9-to-5 job, because I knew exactly what I would be doing every single day, and I could have a routine. And obviously, like as much as it is normal and my reality that I do shift work, and I'm doing night shifts and day shifts, and I have crazy sleep schedules or cycles, like that's normal for me now. But it is challenging. It is absolutely hard. Like when your body is telling you to be asleep, but you're like, well, I'm at work.
Be awake, gotta be working.
Like I've got lives to look after, like I can't be doing that. So it's just, I think it all comes down to your, like, you know, perception of what is going to be hard.
Yes.
Like,
Yes,
for
I agree.
me, I was just like, that's just normal.
Yeah.
And if I know it's normal, then it's not hard. But if other people, like, you know, like I have friends who work 9-to-5 jobs, and they're like, oh my God, I don't know how you would be able to do that. But it's just like, well,
changing that thought process.
Yeah, it's just about changing your perception and your projection towards something. And if you perceive it to be hard and you tell yourself it's going to be hard, then
it will.
You're going to make it hard for yourself. And it's all about the language that you speak into yourself as well. That creates your reality.
Definitely. Really, really agree with that. And you know, it's very important what you are a mirror image of your thoughts. So yeah, if you go into, you know, that's why if you're into a mindset of, you know, prep and, you know, you gotta, you know, suffer, but, you know, you're telling yourself, this is easy, I can do this. You're having positive thoughts, you know, it's not going to be as hard as someone going every second, oh, I'm so hungry, this is really hard, oh, I can't be bothered. You know, you're then, you know, going to start to live those thoughts that you're creating through, like you said, your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more you feed into that, the more that'll become your awareness. Like, your brain likes thoughts. So if you keep telling yourself, oh, it's going to be hard, I'm going to be hungry, you're going to feel that because you're speaking that into your awareness. So it's just like, I mean, like, we all have moments where we're like, oh my God, this is hard. But then you do it and then you're like, oh, okay, like,
It wasn't that hard. Yeah.
It wasn't that bad after all. And it's just like becoming aware of those thoughts and becoming aware of the language that you're speaking to yourself, and being able to change that is how you're going to actually be able to change your attitude towards something as well.
Yeah, because in the same way, it's building like a habituary thought process and, you know, associating, you know, those positive things, just kind of like, you know, like you said, doing a task, you know, you're preparing, you know, for a night shift, and, or, you know, you're getting all your bags ready the day before. So you're building that habit. So it doesn't even feel like a task. You're just preparing yourself. So, you know, same thing, you have the habit of the thought and you're creating that. So it's just always going to be like that, as an association to what you're doing. It's very good and powerful. The mind, I think, is the biggest thing. You know, I hear people talk about, you know, physically, you know, outsiders always talk about the physical side of a prep, and always like, you know, it's very physically draining. And I think it is. I can't speak too much because I haven't done it myself yet, but I can, from, you know, friends and seeing all you guys and everyone following that, you know, I think the biggest factor is actually, you know, the mental side and the mental toll that it can take. And, you know, if you have a strong mind, at the end of the day, you know, your body follows where your head is at. So it's good that you kind of got that all sorted, and, you know, that's already kind of how you're thinking. I think it's going to take you very far and going to help you so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember, like, I would go to my check-ins, and if things got changed, and it was just like, you know, like more cardio, less food, this, like, you know, as you go along, and that initial thought is like, oh, it's going to get harder now. And it's just breaking that habit of thinking that because you have to do something more physical, and yes, it is physically exhausting, it is extremely physically exhausting, but it's your mindset that is what's going to push you past those physical exhaustion moments to keep you going. And I can't remember what point. It was usually around like the 6 to 4 week mark, when, you know, things are really, like, you're really starting to feel it. And I would have these almost like epiphanies where I was just like, my food's going down, my energy expenditure is going up, like the deficit, you're really starting to dig into that deficit. And it's just like, each time that we would have a change, I'm like, oh, it's going to get harder now. I would just be like, okay, but I've got to do it. Like, there's no questions there. Like, I've got to do it. And the more you command your mind to do it, your body just follows through. Like, and I just would have these moments where I'm just like, well, every single time that's happened, when my food's dropped or my cardio's increased or my energy output's increased, my body just does it. Like, it gets harder, but if you're you have to have that mindset to be able to push yourself past those thoughts of thinking that it's going to get harder.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, it's going to get harder, but that means that I'm getting the results that I want to, and I have to push past these boundaries to get to another level that I've never been before. And that's usually the main thing, is you think it's going to be hard. It's just you haven't been there before. You haven't done that before. If you keep pushing yourself to it, you get there and you're like, oh, I did it. And then you just have those moments where you're like, oh, it wasn't so bad after all.
Yeah, it's just like that reflection of, wow, I achieved something that I didn't think possible, you know, because we're always scared of achieving, or not even achieving, but just that fear of unknown, like putting ourselves in a position where we haven't been before, and the nerves and the anxiety and all, you know, negative thoughts that arise from it. But then actually, you know, going through, like, for example, I get nervous every time I do a podcast. I get nervous. I'm like, I haven't talked to this person before. I don't know what's going to happen. But then as soon as we start talking, it's like easy, smooth. It's good. Yeah. So it's like, oh, there was nothing to worry about. And then, you know, those positive thoughts, you know, carry through. And, you know, eventually, I think, like you were saying, that habit of eventually I feel like there will be no more nerves, because it's just like, oh, it always goes smoothly, and, you know, it's going to be exciting, and I enjoy it as much as the person I'm talking to. So, you know, let's just create that positive chain of thoughts continue to continue.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. It's just that unknowing. And then because there's nothing there for your mind to grab onto to know what it's going to feel like, you get filled with all these like negative thoughts, and because it's outside your comfort zone, you're like, we've never done this before. All these things are coming in, like you said, the anxiety, the stress, the second guessing. You're like, oh, I've never spoken to this person before, how's it going to go? That unknown feeling leaves space for the negativity to come in. But it's like, if you just do it and see what it's like, then you have those moments of knowing, oh yeah, this is fine, I can do this. Every other time it's worked out and I've enjoyed it and I've loved it, or I've gained something from it. And then you can filter out those negative feelings with positive feelings, and then that's the cycle that you can repeat.
So I'm really intrigued by this, because I'll put it this way. Did this type of mindset, or, you know, positive thinking, or I guess like kind of outlook that you have on this, do you think, where did it come from? Kind of like, did it start pre-prep? Did it kind of come about during prep, and as you started to develop more and know who you are as a person? Or is it kind of something that was influenced, you know, your parents are similar? Just because in like retrospect, hindsight for myself, like I find that, you know, not everyone kind of, you know, some people struggle with kind of keeping that positive mindset, or understanding that, you know, thought process, or that type of way. And, you know, I'm always intrigued, you know, when I share a conversation with someone that, you know, thinks similar like that, or, you know, already kind of is on the right track towards, you know, achieving like a good mindset, because it can really take you so far. So just kind of, where did it kind of come from?
Where did it come from? Yeah. Well, I view it as like your mindset is just like any other muscle, and it's just like starting out at the gym, right? Like you have a little bit and then you grow from there. For me personally, it probably started maybe like 18 months ago.
So just COVID or during COVID? That's around about, COVID's about 2020. So
it would have been after.
After
just after, probably like the beginning of last year. I had gotten out of a long-term relationship, and I was kind of faced with a bit of an identity crisis. And I was just like, I now have all this space to feel I don't really know who I am. And I spent so much time investing in myself, and I started reading like personal development books. I started going to like consciousness, like I started becoming like parts of like different communities, like consciousness communities, and create like in putting myself in, which was very uncomfortable environments at the time because it was all new. And I just put myself in an environment of personal development. I ended up going and doing neuro-linguistic programming practitioner course, which I had no freaking clue what that was at the time. But I just started trusting my intuition and trusting what the universe is bringing to me. And just was like, I don't really know what this is. It's all about personal development. I'm trying to find who I am right now. And I just feel like this is really aligned with me. And I jumped into that course, and it just blew my mind open to the potential of what your mindset can do for you. And from there, I started investing in it more. I started investing in myself and doing more personal development courses, reading more, and I started listening to podcasts all about mindfulness and mindset. And that then became my environment, and that then became part of my identity. And the more I invested into it, the more it just became something that grew on me, and I practiced it, and I put what I'd learned in, and I took action on it and put that into practice. And just like how you train and you start and you learn something new, the more you do it and the more that muscle grows, or the more knowledge you have around, you know, training grows, the more you do it and the more you put yourself in that environment, and the more that you connect with people in that like familiar community. And then it just became part of my identity. And I went on to do like my master's cert in NLP as well. And again, that just like peeled back so many layers, and I just like went through so much like healing, and it just has skyrocketed my mindset, and I'm now able to utilize that in all avenues of my life. And it's 100%. Definitely something that I implemented into my prep, and knowing all the things about mindset, I could use that to my advantage to get the results that I have for myself as well.
No, that's really cool. I've never heard of that course. I'll have to have a look into that. That's really interesting, because no, it's really good, you know, because I feel sometimes people can get out of a relationship and, you know, be stuck in the dumps, or like you said, have that identity crisis and not really know where to go from there. But it was good. You kind of, you know, took the challenge head on and, you know, wanted to find out who you were. And then in doing so, it's, you know, really just created so much potential, because you've, you know, found these different courses and, you know, put yourself in uncomfortable environments, but also the right type of environment that has supported your growth as a human being. And, you know, I think that's something that we should all do, because it's really important to kind of, you know, I feel like sometimes we get lost in, we get lost in other people, or we get lost in a materialistic world where we forget to focus on ourselves and our own personal growth. And then in return, when things like relationships and, you know, unbeknownst, you know, a codependence occurs, so leaving it, we then go, oh my God, what am I? Who am I? What do I do? And, you know, a lot of us then kind of are afraid to put ourselves back out there, or put ourselves in a system where it supports that growth again. So no, it's really cool that you were able to do that. And you can see how much it's obviously, I'm 100%, I agree that having the right mindset, and let alone a positive mindset, can help you tackle any type of scenario. So I can only imagine how beneficial it could be. And it's definitely in a prep mindset where, you know, you kind of going against your own body, and, you know, the only thing that's keeping you going is that how strong you mentally are. So it's really cool that you were able to, you know, assess the situation, grow to who you are as a person, and bounce back from the relationship, while then also, you know, having this thing that's applied to all areas of your life. I commend you on that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so true what you're saying about like having that codependency, and you almost get lost in someone else or lost in the materialistic world, because that is so prevalent, especially with social media these days. It's just like losing yourself in something that isn't actually you, and giving yourself away. And I definitely felt that with the identity crisis. I was like, I don't even know who I am or what I like to do. And then I was like, well, what do I want to do? Like, what do I like to do?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like I used to love reading when I was a teenager and I started reading. But when I decided to read, I was like, what's going to help me
Benefit,
the most? And I started reading personal development books. And then I fell in love with that. And then before I knew, I was reading all these, self-help books pretty much. But that led me into opening my eyes to the opportunities around me and connecting with different people. And that led me down certain paths. It's like I had that opportunity and I was open to receiving what could come of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing as well, is like some people can shut themselves off so much because they don't know what to do, or they've got all these thoughts running through their mind, or they're trying to control their thoughts or be someone else, or be a person that they're perceived to be externally, and then shutting themselves off from the opportunities that are right in front of you, like right in front of them, to be able to develop and go down paths that you never knew existed. Like I remember when I, paid for the NLP course and I was like, I don't even know what this is, but I trust that this is happening for a reason. And it just opened so many doors and so many avenues that I never knew were even there.
Yeah. It's like the importance of action, and that saying, one door closes, another open. And sometimes I think that that after that door closes and the next one opens, we kind of just stare at it and we're like, do we go through it, do we not? And that's where that action and taking that action and walking through it, then like you said, just opens up a plethora of things that can be so beneficial to ourselves.
Absolutely. It's just, again, it's like that unknowing. You're standing at the door, you're like, I don't know what's on the other side. It's like, well, why don't you just find out? Like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, what, you stuff up. There's no such thing as failure. There's only ever feedback. And if you can learn to accept that and grow and learn, I mean, like if you look back in your part, like throughout your life, you go through ups and downs and you say, oh, that didn't really work out, but did you learn something from it? Did you grow from it? I guarantee you did. Everything is
an experience. Every positive, every negative action, anything, it's an experience that we can take on, reflect, and then that helps, shape the direction or the path that, we create to get to whatever point we want to do with whatever our goals, our morals, values are.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Absolutely.
I loved how the mind works. And I think that's another thing that I love about bodybuilding too, is that, you're not just taking how far your body can go. You're really also testing the limits of your mind and what you can push. Because, I think each time, each prep is different, each where you are in life is different, you're trying to create the look that you want for this prep, and then you have an off season, then you come back for another prep, and it's just like, okay, well, how do we beat this image, and how do we, now we've got all this other stuff that we got to work with, or this new muscle, okay, now we need to try and create this type of shape. And it's just really cool how much they intertwine. And I think that's one thing that I really just love about the sport that kind of gets missed a lot from that outsider point of view.
Huge. And I think honestly, like the biggest takeaway, especially from my prep, is those last few weeks, like the physical side of it. It's like you're doing the motions, but it's your mind that actually pushes you there. Like you've got to rock up for those cardio sessions. You've got to do it. You've got to train. You've got to go to the grocery shops, and you've got to buy the food. You've got to cook the food. Like it is like physically exhausting, but you're already, by the time you get towards the end, you're pretty much done all the hard work. It's just like your mindset that's got to keep pushing and keep grinding, because you just got to tick off those days one by one, like to get through it, and your body will just follow through. And I love the idea of it. If you can't give 100%, at least give that 1%, because it's always going to count towards the end result.
That's right. 1%, 100 days of 1% equals 100%. You'll get there eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And some days are slower than others, but you still are putting in that effort, and that compounding effort is what's going to get you there and get you across the line at the end of the day.
100%. So with the mindset thing that you have and the personal development and the growth that you've had, is this where your side hustle, side business kind of came from? I'll bring it up just if anyone hasn't seen it. I'll bring it up onto Instagram. Why is that not working? Share. There we go. Your soul. Why is it not working?
Oh, look, it's so cute. There's me. There she is.
Here. So
my little side hustle.
So did this kind of stem from? So I just want to kind of talk about where this kind of came from. Did it stem from your, personal growth that you've had and finding a way to kind of share that with others? Are you wanting this to kind of take over, hopefully, from, your nursing, and you can just do nursing on the side? Like, tell me about this project.
Tell me about this project. Well, this was a little love project that stemmed into a business. And I'm not like closing myself off from, I guess, putting myself in one box, but this is part of my identity diversification. And I think that is a really important thing too. We don't have to be just one thing. Like, I don't just have to be a nurse. I can be a nurse and have my own business as well. And I can be like a mindset coach as well. And I can do the bodybuilding and be a bikini bodybuilder. I think that's a huge thing that I love to promote, is like, you don't have to just fit into one box and just do one thing. You can create an identity diversification of whatever you want. And this, the latest, the business, is business, side hustle, whatever you want to call it. It started as a love project I made. My best friend, my beautiful best friend, Talia, shout out to her.
Shout out to her. She came third at the state show. And first timers, if you guys didn't see that, she's going to be a national too.
Yes, she's going to be a national. So we did prep side by side. But her birthday at the beginning of the year, I was creating, like, I was looking into these things. I was like, oh, these are cute. I want to buy one. Couldn't really find one that I liked. And I was like, well, I'm just going to make one. So I made one, and I was like, oh, I really love that. And another thing too is, like, I'm a very spiritual person. I love the universe. I love astrology and zodiacs and all that stuff. I have a huge interest in that. So I created it for her, framed it for her, really liked it, made a few more for a few friends, and then started selling them. And then that just birthed the idea of, like, well, I'm just going to make this into a business because I love it and it's something that I enjoy. And that birthed Solar. And now I'm in the process of building a website for that.
Oh, awesome.
Which will be epic, right in time for Christmas. And that will expand and grow. And we'll just see where
it takes you.
Where it takes me, because I'm just grinding away and just open to whatever happens.
No, it's cool.
It's meant to be.
I remember when I first saw it, I was like really kind of like taken aback by it. I was just like, this is such a great idea. This is really cool. Because I'm like, you go to the shops and you go into like, QBD, Bookface, wherever, and you can see like little books and it's like, 100 quotes or, read a page a day and it says something positive on it. And I just thought, like, it was just such a cool blend of, that kind of positive, uplifting type of message, or even just, something nice to read while, entwining with, like you said, the astrology. And I think that's something really cool, that it's just different. And I feel like it's, astrology, is really popular. And it's just something that you unintentionally, I think this is the beauty, and this is where, you know, really good business plans come from, or business ideas come from, is something that you kind of stumble upon naturally and organically that meets all the criteria of like, you know, it's popular, people want that, people, whether it's at a desk, at an office, hanging up in their home, in their bedroom, you know, you just hit all these criteria unintentionally, and it's just so cool. Like
I know, it's so cool.
It's just like that, yeah.
But I think that's what I love about it too, is it's something that was so organic, and it just, I just followed that path and was like, well, let's see where this goes. And then here we are building a website for it. And
is there like a date where that's meant to be, like next 2 months, like just November, maybe before December?
October, end of October.
Oh, that's soon. Exciting.
Yes, it's very, very soon. So after nationals.
Hell yeah, that's good. That's good. Lots of things coming your way outside of bodybuilding. It's exciting.
Yeah, lots of things, all the things.
The next thing that I thought we could talk about was kind of get back onto the bodybuilding stuff. We'll go back here and we'll go to your page. Well, that's not right. Oh yeah, there you are. Oh, wrong one. Good old James.
Oh, shout out James.
Yeah, shout out James. All right. Where is it? Oh, you don't have any stage shots. Do we have this though? Hey. So what do you have your judges' feedback yet? Or do you know, like, what did you, so this is your coach, this is Logan.
Yeah.
If anyone doesn't know, shout out him, Team Sacrifice. He coached a couple of other girls. That's his daughter. But so what I'm asking is, do you have a plan? Like, what was your plan for nationals? So were you wanting, did you get the coach's feedback yet? Or do you know kind of what you wanted to work on to, maybe a better way to word it is, are you just going in more for the experience? Because I joined your live the other day, and I really, that quick one you did, and I really liked what you were saying with that, you know, in reflection, you know, you get a bummed, you know, that initial emotional reaction of, oh, damn, I wanted a medal, but it's all about everything else and how you got there and what you brought and all the other things, and the bonus is the medal. So are you going internationals with the expectation of, okay, we're aiming, or like you're always aiming, but you know what I mean? Or you just kind of do it for more the experience?
Look, like, you know, as a serious, I guess, bodybuilder and someone who is a high achiever as well and works hard, like I was saying on my live the other day, you want to be rewarded for your hard work.
Yeah.
So whilst I didn't get a medal or I didn't place at the state show, it didn't really mean anything to me at the end of the day, because ultimately I look at myself on the stage, and I am so happy with the package that I brought for my first IFBB show. And I really admire my own physique so much. And I know that I can be better. I mean, you can always be better.
Yeah.
You know, you can always, you know, have that next level, because, you know, the grind doesn't stop and the leveling up doesn't stop. There's no threshold. Going into nationals, yes, I want to improve on my results, 100%. I'm a hard worker. I'm a high achiever. I want to be rewarded.
Yeah.
But it's not, I don't attach myself to that outcome and that goal. And it's not like I'm going to get first.
Yeah.
It's, I'm going to improve on my body and my physique. And that's the prize for me. That from a bodybuilding perspective, I don't have the actual judges' feedback yet. But from like coach's perspective and my own perspective and feedback, definitely need to come in a lot leaner.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, a lot leaner.
Because from what I saw, you're like from the back, like your glute ham tie-in, like it was there, but it definitely could have been a lot more solid when in, you know, comparison. Like I think, you know, when you, like, for example, if we compare like Talia, like Talia is like, was pretty lean, and she really does have that. She had that a little bit more defined glute ham tie, and I think that's what got her in that third place, as well as that, you know, naturally really small waist.
Yeah, she's got zero waist. And especially like I have a lot more, I guess, muscle density on me compared to Tal. So next to her, like I looked a lot thicker.
Yeah, okay. But I feel like, I think in the long run, that's going to be more beneficial for you because, you know, for example, Hannah Cameron.
Yeah. Oh, her, amazing.
Like, her physique, amazing, honestly. But I really was, in my opinion, like, for example, like that dense muscle, like I feel like she had such full glutes and she has the like muscle there, but because she just wasn't lean enough, I feel like that's why she missed that first spot, because, you know, even talking to Lewis about it and stuff like that, she was missing that glute ham tie-in. But, you know, because she had that density, like they popped so much more than the person who, you know, came first. So I feel like that would have been the missing factor. So like, kind of bring that back to that same type of thing. I think that, you know, having that like dense muscle, like for example, if you look at someone like, you know, Laura Lee, Chapados and stuff, like they have that dense muscle density, but it's just about, you know, help making that dense muscle pop and, you know, having those striations. So I think it's good that you've kind of already, you know, built that dense muscle, and your muscle may be naturally dense, so it's already kind of there. So it's just about kind of, I guess, like you're saying, hit that other mark, just in comparison like, with what you're saying with Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like I said, that's the goal for nationals, is just get leaner, harder as well, just so we can see that muscle pop, and posing as well. So I just made a few adjustments on my posing. I think that like they're definitely looking for a lot more conditioning. I mean, you compare even the section B, the girls in section B were so conditioned. It was insane. Hannah, who took out the bikini,
first timers,
and she won all their categories. She was shredded.
Yeah, like, she was really peeled. I was really blown away by that, because she first came out, and I was like, because I'm still trying to learn what exactly is the perfect look. So when she came out, I was like, is she too conditioned? And I was like, wow. And then when she kept placing, I was like, oh, okay, they're obviously maybe not that. Yeah.
And that's the thing, it's hard because obviously like they're going off like, we've got a criteria that we have to meet. You know, the biggest thing is like that small waist, that delt pop, and also that glute ham tie-in is like the three main things when it comes to bikini. And it's just the average of what's in front of you is what the judges are judging off. And it's just like, you can have a criteria, but when you're standing against a certain, like a lineup of 10 girls, like what the average is and what's the best average there, and that's what's going to be rewarded. I mean, even when you compare like the section A, which was my section, you know, the girls who placed, if you stood them next to section B, the conditioning level is so different. But because the average of that section was either like the smaller waist, and it's still obviously extremely conditioned, like the quality of athletes at Queensland is just nuts.
Ridiculous on all levels, from men.
Off chart. So Team Queensland bring that home to nationals. Absolutely. But you compare, and then even again in the section C, which is the taller girls, it's just, there's just a whole different look for each section, but it's judging off like, I guess, the average of what's presented on stage, to who wins the overall as well. But I definitely can see that the shows, they've been going for more conditioning in the bikini category for sure, and just having those real standouts with, you know, you delts, that small waist and glutes. glutes, glutes, glutes.
Yeah. And I think
So that's literally all I've been training is shoulders and
and
glutes.
But pays off. It will pay off. And I'm really excited to see, that improvement, if you can, you know, bring that dryness and, conditioning even more.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see, especially because it's going to be great because we're going to have all the first timers from, South Australia, Victoria, Perth. So to have them all come together and kind of, that's also a good gauge for you to kind of really stand and go, okay, so how does the average change now that they're all here? And now where am I in this new average? So I think that's going to be something really exciting to kind of take away from as well. And then how do we evaluate and plan moving forward from that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be interesting because the sections like who I'll be against will obviously be different because there's different athletes there, but their height, like there's more categories in nationals, like the heights are split.
Oh, is it the heights are split even more?
The heights are split even more. So I won't be against, I won't be against Charles this time. We'll actually be split because she'll be smaller and I'll be in the next height category. So it'll mix up, I guess, the athletes. So it'll be very interesting to see, who I do end up competing against and who I'm on stage against. And then in saying that, though, ultimately it still comes down to just like bettering that image and that physique that I present on stage. And like I said, I'm still so extremely happy with my package overall. It's just, tweaking those finer details to become that a little bit better and that more like that little bit more competitive against the rest of the girls.
No, I think because I agree with that. I think that's the most important thing, and that's something that I definitely going to take into my first prep whenever that happens. Is that it's you versus you. Like that's the most important thing, and anything that comes out on that stage, I think that's something that no offense to anyone that, it's great that the sport's getting more popular and it's great that, more people are wanting to compete and, it's becoming, a little bit more mainstream depending how you look at it. But I think so many people just kind of go in and, I just want to win. I just want to win. I just want to be top 3. I just want to win a medal where it's more about how can you challenge yourself? How can you grow? How can you be better than the time before? What standard can you set? It's good that you've tried so hard and put so much effort in and left no stone unturned. So you've set the standard for yourself. So, you can only bring better as you continue. You're only going to go up. You're not setting the standard low and then next time around you're going to be a fraction better. You set the standing up here so you can set a standard, double it again. And I think that's really important. And I think so many people want to go in, but for just to win, but it's more about personal growth. Reason. And that winning is the bonus. That's my opinion how I look at it. Like, of course, don't get me wrong. Just like you, I would love to win. Everybody wants to win.
Obviously, everyone wants to win. Like, you're lying to yourself if you're not. Especially if you're serious about it. You want to be rewarded for your hard work. Definitely. Like everyone does. It's just removing yourself from that attachment to a particular result. And I think the people who are doing it for the wrong reasons, they figure that out, or like you can see when people are doing it for that external validation. Because a lot of the time they can't get to the end result because they're not actually doing it for themselves. They're doing it for something that's external to them, but that can only carry you so far. Because like I said, at the end, when you're grinding, it's like you that gets you over the line. It's not the medal that you might get, It's literally you and what you're doing it for. And it's your ability to push yourself and stay true to that. Your purpose is literally to grow and develop and to become better and push yourself to those limits. It's all from within and nothing externally can get you there. That's what I mean. Like I had a post up and I was just like, you can't blame anyone else for what happened because it's you that had to do the work, or it's you that did or didn't do the work, like to get there. Like, you can't blame the judges, you can't blame your coach, because they are external from you and you can't control that.
That's right. And like, and you can only go so far. Like, you know, the reality is, if you know, you've done everything and you've made no stone unturned, like what you present is what you present. You know, it's, you know, if I get it, can become subjective with what judges prefer or look, and that's where you can say that's questionable. But at the end of the day, you know, it's just a way to show you the hard work. It doesn't take anything else away from like what you've done. And, you know, that's what you got to learn to have gratitude for, what you have done, and not that external, like you're saying, from the judges or the show or, you know, whatever.
Yeah. And I definitely think if you're blaming like something externally, or you're attaching yourself and you're using that as your driving force, then you're not doing it for the right reasons. Like, and it's only going to get you so far before you realize that too. Because it's all you. Like, it's literally those last few weeks. Like, there is no one else pulling you over that line except for yourself. Obviously, like, you've got that support network, but no one's going to do the work for you. You have to do the work yourself.
Definitely. Well, that kind of wraps up all the questions that I had and what I want to talk about. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yes, thank you. I've loved it.
Good luck with nationals. Keep working hard. I'm very excited to see the improvements. You've got a great physique.
Me too. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's going to be epic.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Have a good rest of the day.
All right. You too.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.